Okay, it's thinking about it.
We here, we there.
It's still thinking.
Oh, we live now.
Hang on.
Tommy, I got the memo.
Okay, we are live. Mr. Chair, you may go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Welcome everyone. Greetings to Dr. Carl, Dr. Nevo. I saw him. Everyone, our guest speakers. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Skumuzo Khatebe, the chairperson of the Planeteers. So thank you guys for joining. And we have this day, we planned something nice for women, you know. It came as a thought because we had some, like we are ending the month of the women today. It's the 30th of August and we didn't celebrate anything. And I think, and I believe it's the first time we are having such event in our HPW. We never had something like this. So we're like, with my team, we're like, you know what guys, let us do something nice because we are staying at home. We are having this lockdown thing. So let us do something nice that will connect most of us here and have a chat and look into the life of a woman in science, you know, and look how are they surviving, how they do things, you know, how are they moving up? You see, I want to be there overseas, they're not in South Africa. How did they get there? You know, they should give us something, you know, to encourage other people, encourage other women. You see, Dr. Haley, she's out there in Germany. How did she got there? You know, she'll give us some tips. So thank you guys for joining us. So we are here to celebrate you, to celebrate everyone, women mostly. But yes, of course, we're also going to benefit for getting this chance to be here and getting the chance to know all of you guys. And I'm happy that we were able to put this together with my team and we are here to move forward. So I will allow Dr. Carl, you know, each and every time people will love to be welcomed. I will allow Dr. Carl to welcome all of you and say something. Dr. Carl, it's over to you.
Nice one. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's my absolute honor to welcome you all, Planeteers new and old, both here in South Africa and around the world, to our Life of Women in Science special webinar. To give a bit of background, as you all probably know, Women's Day originally commemorates the 1956 March to the Union Building in Pretoria by more than 20,000 women of all races to protest the past laws. The current observance of the day goes beyond marking those women who took such a brave stand against the apartheid laws, and we use the day, and in fact the month, to draw attention to the many significant issues that still face women today. One of those issues, with particular relevance to the Habitable Planet programme, is the underrepresentation of Black women in science and technology in both research and careers nationally. To illustrate that, Black women make up about 4 in 10 of the population of our country as a whole, but less than 2 in 10 of scientists. And now, I say this is one issue, but it's actually a whole range of systematic barriers that prevent young Black women from accessing education, opportunities in science research. Now, I don't have the time to go into all of these right now. Perhaps I hope we'll hear from about some of them from our panelists, but nonetheless, it goes without saying that our country simply cannot achieve our national development goals if these problems are allowed to persist. Here at Access, we're quite proud to be able to say that we have been doing some significant work towards breaking down some of these barriers and helping address these issues. Part of the evidence I can offer for this is the impressive statistics we have on the number of women participating in the Habitable Planet programme, and particularly in the leadership positions. We were just welcomed by our chairman, and I can say that the first time our chairman joined the leadership team, he was the only male of 10 core lecturers. Now, that situation was unusual. We can't and probably wouldn't want to try and always have 90% females in all of our activities, but nonetheless, our leadership programs are always way beyond the 50% mark. And we do believe this isn't just by chance, but it is due to the way that the program is supporting the Planeteers. The other of the evidence I can offer you for this is the amazing panel that we have here today. We don't have quite 20,000 women of all races, but we do have quite an incredible panel of female volunteers who are going to talk today.
20,000
Say a couple of words, we have going to talk to us today, Precious. Precious is a UCT researcher. She's a long-time core lecturer. She has recently been the host of the Planeteers podcast with me. So I've been on this kind of thing with Precious many times. And she's one of the oldest hands at the Ocean Science Talk. She's in the Oceanography department at UCT. We have Dr. Haley, who's now moved to Germany. As Sku said, we're very excited to find out about how she's been experiencing Germany. But she was one of the first ever core lecturers. She was in fact a core lecturer before we even had a training. She worked tirelessly to put together a lot of the Habitable Planet curriculum, including, I remember, I think, working all night on core lectures once in Pretoria. We have Ntombi. Ntombi goes back core lecturing right to Habitable Planet 20 in Cape Town. She's been one of the people who's been instrumental in putting Habitable Planet on the map at UKZM and in running 3 back-to-back workshops there. We have Spey Kumalo on the line. At first I wondered who that was. I'd never heard of her. And then I remembered that she'd recently been married. I guess that highlights another issue that faces women specifically. Spey, she core lectured in the 2016 workshop, and she was the first person who really ever mastered the paleoclimate talk. Lastly, but not least, the youngest of the team, Sirisha. I remember Sirisha at her first workshops being a very shy young lady. She is now one of the most accomplished core lecturers we have in the program, and she seems to be giving a webinar or a seminar online every other week. She also regularly lectures on most of the workshops. That's plenty from me. I'm very much looking forward to what they all have to say. For now, I'm going to hand over to our hosts, the even more recent Planeteer leaders, but of course incredible in their own right, Sihle and Carla.
Thank you, Dr. Cole. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sihle Mlonyeni, and I'm a student at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, and I am currently doing my master's in environmental management. Thank you.
Nicole.
Someone muted me, sorry. Good evening, everyone. I am Nokolum Dedelwa. I am currently doing my honors in botany at the University of Fort Hare, and I will be your host today. So some ground rules before we start our day, as that, which is the most important one. Can each and every person mute their mics unless they are the ones talking? Each speaker has 5 minutes to talk and 2 minutes for questions and answers. When a person wants to speak, can they please raise their hand like this or use the reaction on your Zoom application? Thank you. I hope you guys will enjoy the day as much as we hope you will. Over to you, Sihle.
Thank you, Nokolo. So we'll just get into it. So our first speaker is Precious Masha. So Precious completed her applied marine science master's degree at the University of Cape Town in 2019. The results of her master's research was published in top international scientific journal, Climate Dynamics. She's currently doing her PhD, looking into severe and underreported Eastern Cape and KZN droughts. She was a co-lecturer in 2017, and in that workshop, she gave a lecture on ocean circulation. In 2019, she was also part of the leadership team of co-lecturers that was held in the West Coast. Precious, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sihle. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you to the organizing team for the invitation. It's such an honor. I think my story, I'll just tell a brief of how I got to where I am today when it comes to my academics. I've always loved science growing up, and my mom was a science teacher, so I think I was kind of pushed towards the science direction because she was already into it and she thought that science was the best thing ever. I think if I actually did not have the push from her, I would have gone into accounting because I really like that. And I remember at some point when she was just like, no, you have to stop this accounting thing, you have to stick to science. My accounting teacher for open day spoke to her and was like, why is she actually dropping it? Because she likes it and she's doing really well. But I think as much as it was a bit of a push from her, I came to love the sciences because there's just there's an ocean of things that you can get to do. You basically direct your own path in science. And so I came to varsity and for my undergrad, I majored in environmental science and geology. And then towards the end of my program, I majored in oceanography. And so when I graduated from my undergrad, I ended up graduating with the oceanography and environmental science majors. And then after that, I really did not have plans to continue with my postgraduate studies. And it was not because I knew I wanted to do it at some point, but I thought getting experience and would have if you get experience before pursuing postgraduate studies would be more ideal because you have a feel of what's out there and you set your mind straight when it comes to what projects you would want to go into. But being exposed to programs like HPW and seeing other women and other women in the field furthering their studies was what motivated me, which brings me to one of the points that I think is very important as an aspiring researcher or scientist. It's that mentorship is very important. You need to look up to certain people, know your goal, and look up to certain people that are doing similar things because then that gives you a light on what other steps that you need to take. And also you can consult and find out whether your plan, whatever you are planning, fits the picture that you're trying to get to. So I think for me, that was, I didn't have much of that, which was the bit of confusion in terms of whether I wanted to go straight into my postgraduate studies or first get work experience and then come back to it. But I think overall, I do not regret having to have stayed doing my postgraduate studies because I think you still have it all fresh in you and you get more ideas. You still have the same group of people that you did your undergraduate studies with, and that ends up building a support system for you in your postgraduate studies. So I did my honors in the oceanography department, and for my honors, I looked at, so rainfall has always fascinated me because I come from a place where you basically greet and ask about the weather. That's like making small talk in my village. So I saw how important it was. And every time, most of the families in my community depend on rainfall for subsistence farming. And whenever we never got rains, it was very frustrating. You could see that it was frustrating and the whole community will be devastated. So for me, it was quite interesting because I know that for operational cases, it's very interesting to just say that we're not having rains this season, but I just got interested in figuring out what causes those dry periods and just that. And for me, it's been a fulfilling experience. So that's a bit of my background. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Precious, for the lovely presentation. If someone is not inspired by your talk right now, I do not know, because from talking, I heard that you were talking about how important it is to have mentors and people that you look up to. So who would you say was your mentor when you were doing your undergrad?
I wouldn't say I had a mentor per se when my undergraduate started, which actually was the reason I was really unclear on what I wanted to do next after my undergraduate studies. But I think to get into the field, my mom was my role model per se. I'm not a mentor. So for mentors, I just looked at what my other fellow colleagues were doing, my fellow colleagues in my field, what they was aspiring to be and how they navigated the system. So for me, that was how I survived undergraduate. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Precious. So if anyone has a question, could you please raise up your hand? Sihle, Skumbuzo, I will need your help in seeing who is raising their hands.
Dr. Carl?
Okay, we have Dr. Carl.
A quick one, Precious. One question a lot of the Habitable Planet students often ask is, how do you get into UCT? So I think that would be relevant to a lot of people if you could just tell your story of how you managed that.
Okay, so how do we get into UCT? I don't, if it's about the points and credits, I wouldn't remember. It's been a while. But basically, I came here once for a holiday in Cape Town, and I really liked the place. I told myself that I want to come back here. Definitely, I would want to come and stay here or study here. And so when in matric, I was in boarding school, my mom was doing most of my applications. So I just told her, you have to. And every time I would check that she has applied at UCT. And a funny story is at the end of the day, I was also a bit confused in whether I wanted to go medicine route or to do geology, which is an environmental science. So I got an offer at UL in Limpopo, and they offered me my second choice, which was nursing. And I got an offer at UP to start pharmacy, which was my other choice. And I rejected those because I had to pay a registration fee or whatever to retain the offers. So, and towards the end of January, I still hadn't had anything else from other institutions. And it turned out that UCT was the last option, and I hadn't heard anything from them. But I was lucky enough to get accepted. So I think just look out for applications and the closing date is always around September, but some programs have a closing date in June, between June and July. So yeah, put in your application around before that time. Just check your whatever program that you're interested in, and look out for the closing dates. And it's all online, so it's quite efficient. Yeah.
Thank you, Precious. I see Dr. Neville has his hand up as well. Dr. Neville?
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Thanks very much for that stuff. There's lots that comes out of what you spoke about, which I would love to get into. I'm sure we don't have time, and I hope that we will find time. UCT Oceanography was, until recently, the only oceanography department in the country. I do believe that NNMU now has a fantastic marine science program, and obviously UKZN has also got a marine science program. So I think that UCT has always been the sort of go-to place for oceanography. That may be changing. And And what I want to say is that I spent some time in oceanography myself as an undergraduate. At those days, we were all white and all men. The big change that came with it when women started appearing there wasn't exclusively, but certainly there were only white people, maybe a smattering of a few people that were not. So I'm interested to know what it was like to be a Black woman in that department, whether you felt that was unusual or normal, or you were breaking some new ground. I'm keen to hear how you felt with your own particular identity in that particular environment. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Neville. I think it has been a challenge, and that's why I strongly encourage that you own have, especially when you're going to postgraduate studies, have your own team, because they help you navigate through your postgraduate studies. Unlike undergrad, postgraduate is a bit lonely and you get to discover more of yourself. It's just a lonely journey on its own. So having people around you is very important, because people that are in the same, like people that are will understand your situation, people that are also doing their postgraduate studies in particular, because they understand the struggles that you're going through, and even if they're not necessarily in the same field, but they do get you. So I think that's what helped with me. And our department, like, we recently had our first Black South African female graduate as a PhD, for a PhD this. And you can see that we still have a long way to go in the department. But it's really challenging, because as Neville has highlighted, it's white dominant, and I think we're still trying to bridge that gap and to get to a point where we have more representation and we feel like the space is more welcoming. It's still a work in progress, and it has been a struggle to adjust to, but I think what helped me navigate through it is there were other Black South African females around me, and seeing them and sharing the experience with them is what has helped me to navigate and to just go through. Like, it really helped me navigate this journey for my postgraduate studies.
Thank you very much, Precious. We have another question from the chats. It is from Dina. It says, any challenges you faced as a woman in science, and how did you deal with them? If you have any examples, please share.
I think the biggest challenge is underrepresentation. So, having just, your supervisor is a male. Most of your colleagues are males, and there's not really much of people of your color in the space. So I think that was who are qualified in that field was the biggest challenge, I think. And I think it's something that I still deal with. I'm learning to deal with, but also finding other women in academia in other fields is how I dealt with it, because then you get to speak to them and how they have um, broken through certain barriers that you feel like you're facing as well, and how they have managed to um, survive in the space, and just looking at what they've had to, because as much as we are continuously having to prove ourselves and to expand as women in science, especially as women of color, there are others that have gone and experienced it, and they've had to actually break more barriers than we currently have. So just seeing them and looking at what they've done, it's motivation enough to just continue and making your voice heard and putting your marking your ground in this field. So I think representation was the biggest challenge for me. And even if it was, I had to find strength and look up to women that were outside my field to try and survive. I hope I answered you, Dina.
Thank you very much, Precious. Our next speaker is Dr. Hayley Evers King, who is a marine applications expert at UMISAT in the User Support Climate Service Division. She provides user support and training on ocean applications of satellite data and manages feedback between users and operational satellite agencies, mostly in support of European Commission Copernic program. Her research background covers the use of optics to derive information about oceans. She has worked throughout the satellite data value chain, from the validation of satellite sensor measurements to algorithm development and data use for various applications, including harmful algal blooms, ocean heat flux, carbon pools, climate model validation, and marine spatial. Prior to her current role, Dr. Hayley worked for 5 years as a marine earth observation scientist at Plymouth Marine Laboratory. She obtained a PhD in ocean remote sensing from the University of Cape Town, South Africa in 2014. Doctor, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much. And hi, everybody. Thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to be amongst such an illustrious group of women, especially that they're all Planeteers. So it's a real pleasure to be here today for me. A little bit about my background. I kind of got motivated to go into science just because I felt like it was the thing that I should do. It felt like a way to make a difference in the world. And there were so many problems I understood from a young age of how our planet was being impacted by activities. I was always kind of compelled to go into the sort of environmental sciences. And that's where I started with a bachelor's degree in the UK, which is where I'm from originally, in environmental science. And then I sort of specialized down into the oceans with a master's degree also in the UK. And then I decided that really what I wanted to do was work with satellites as kind of the best way to get a big picture of our oceans, which are this big piece of the planetary puzzle. And then I kind of made probably the biggest, but I would say best decision of my life, which was I moved to South Africa and I took up a PhD also in the oceanography department, like Precious, at UCT. And it was just a complete transformative experience for me. I learned far more there than I think I would have learned anywhere else in the world. I mean, to start with, South Africa really is an exceptional place to study the ocean, given its situation and the amazing amount of scientific research that goes on there. But also just in the way the whole place works. We were kind of at the cutting edge of different technology usage. I got given loads of responsibilities. I got to work across different programs. I got to teach, I got to train, got to help develop strategy. I got involved in Habitable Planet, which, when I first moved, I could barely give a talk. And, now I do that as part of my regular job. So I really credit the program with helping me both think about my science in different ways. I mean, it's very interdisciplinary, but also just giving me this confidence to be able to speak. So yeah, being in South Africa was an amazing time for me, and it was absolutely heartbreaking to leave. I've kind of had to follow my career, and I moved back to the UK for a while, and then since then decided that what I wanted to do instead of working purely in research was to work at kind of an international organizational level with the satellite agencies that operate and launch these big satellite programs. So helping to kind of form the future of where this amazing space technology goes and how we can use it for the benefit of people on Earth. So it was mentioned I work a lot with this Copernicus program, which is the European Union's big flagship Earth observation program. They've launched a lot of satellites in the last years and will continue doing that. And so that's what I've been working in. But this has actually put me in an even more male-dominated space, I guess, and a white male-dominated space in particular, which is the aerospace industry, which is, very Western, heavy with the US and Europe's involvement, and very male. So, it poses a whole load of new challenges. It's a very competitive industry as well. So as a woman in science, there's a lot of barriers we have to face in that. Not least of which is that half the time we are the only people of our either race or gender in the room. So yeah, it's been an interesting experience moving in these fields, and I'm also quite young to be in this kind of position. So I feel like sometimes that makes people doubt my experiences and things, which can make life quite difficult as a woman. So you have to grow quite a thick skin and a lot of confidence, which is not necessarily fair to us. But I would echo what Precious was saying, that drawing on your networks of support is really, really important. I have some excellent mentors that I've worked with throughout my career, including several people who I still work with from South Africa. And I really draw a lot of strength from them, and I will run kind of my thoughts and career plans by them to say, do you think this is something I can do? Am I doing the right thing here? Like, how does this work? And that has been really, really, really helpful. So some recommendations from me as a woman in science, if you're looking to get into the sort of field that I'm in, or any kind of, I guess, technological scientific field, look at building your networks. They are really everything. They will give you the support you need to carry on, and they will also help you find the opportunities you need to grow your career. And in a sense, for me, being able to work internationally has been a huge benefit. I really like that part of my job. It's not easy. Moving internationally is really hard, and there's a lot of barriers to a lot of people. If you don't come from a very wealthy background, if you don't know people who've moved overseas, it's quite intimidating. The first time I moved to when I moved to South Africa, not many of my family or immediate colleagues and connections and things from when I was sort of younger had done this kind of thing. So it was a big step into the unknown, and it's quite intimidating. And landing in a new country has its own, confusions, language, culture, everything like that. So it's good experiences, but also a challenge, which can compound, everything else that's going on in your life as a woman in science. And, this is definitely not just about being a woman. I mean, my colleagues here can definitely speak more to what it's like being a Black woman, and how being Black as well as being a woman can impact you in science. But other things such as, having a disability, coming from a poorer background, or anything can really affect you in addition to this discrimination that you can face through being a woman. So I always try and remember this, and this is something South Africa taught me, was always to try and think about how are other people experiencing this area of where I work, what is affecting them that I might not even be aware of. And I'm very grateful to South Africa for having taught me so much about that, and I will carry that with me, I think, through the rest of my career. So one last message would be just keep supporting your fellow women, especially. And thank you all very much for this event today.
Thank you, Dr. King, for your time. And as I see, you've mentioned that it was very difficult for you to move from different countries, and you told us about the challenges and the barriers. So what exactly did you do to actually adjust in the different countries that you've been moving to?
Yeah, it's really a big challenge. Finding people that can help you is important. When I moved to South Africa, I was supported by a lot of people at the university, the people I was working with, random people I met in the pub. People in South Africa are incredibly friendly and welcoming and very generous. And without them, I wouldn't have been able to, settle in and figure out, how do I get a bank account? Where should I be living? How do I get from place to place? I didn't have a car or anything, so getting around was really difficult. And people were incredibly generous and supportive, but I also learned a lot from them in that process. So making those connections really helps. And now I feel like absolutely compelled to always pay that forward. So whenever I'm new in a place and somebody else arrives, I try and help them in the same way. Internationally in science, it's quite difficult. Dealing with things like visas is a big challenge for any of us. And I'm sure many of the women in this group here and people listening will probably face this in their careers as scientists. If you want to move to another country to do a PhD, to do a postdoc, get a job, it's hard to get those visas sometimes, and it can be quite full of uncertainty and make you feel a bit sort of scared about your future and things. But there are people who can offer good advice on those kind of things. So finding who's got the knowledge and getting their support would be my best recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who has a question for Dr. King? Noxolo and School, can you please assist me in looking for people that have raised their hands?
There's one on the chat.
School, can you please read out the question for us?
There's one on the chat. It says, which chat? This one? The Facebook chat or this one?
That's the one from
says,
Dr. Neville.
The one from Dr. Neville says, what I want to know is, what was it that made you need the support of others as a postgraduate? I think this one was directed to Precious. Yeah, that was directed to Precious. Thank you. But then, okay, I have a question for Dr. Kings. I just want to check here. Since you are married and you are a scientist, you're working as a woman. So how's it going there? Is there any challenges? You have to serve as a wife and you have to serve at work, you know. So what are the challenges there?
This is a really good question. And I think this is a problem for anybody in any relationship in science, is that often your job will require you to move to different places to work long hours, etc. You know, so any kind of relationship you have, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, marriage, if you've got kids, especially, the whole thing gets compounded. But I think there's a lot of pressure societally on us women to act in certain ways, you know, be the person at home looking after the kids, be the person who does the cooking, you know, these kind of things. That's still very prevalent in our society. So when you have a very high pressure job like science, which can take, you know, all of your mental space in your free time as well, there's definitely a pressure there. For me, this has not been so bad. I mean, my husband is also a scientist. We have a very egalitarian relationship, so that, you know, we both talk about what we want out of our careers and we find ways to balance where we've had to move and to make sure that we can both fulfill the sort of aspirations that we have for our jobs and lives. So we work very much as a very close team. So, you know, finding that, I think, can make, well, for me, having a relationship like that supports my science. You know, my husband and I have worked very closely together. He's one of my closest scientific collaborators, if you like, as well. So that definitely has helped make that a bit easier. And I would say the key for managing moving and things like that is just compromise. But yeah, you'll still come up against some of these stereotypes, especially in the workplace, that people assume that, you know, because you're the wife, you're the one who's not going to try and pursue their career as much, or, you know, you're likely to not come back after having children and things like that. So you still have to battle against some of those stereotypes, but having a good person by your side who supports you really helps.
Okay, thank you so much for your question, for your answer. That's a lovely answer. I have just one comment. Is it a comment or something from Tumelo Mate? It's on YouTube. It says, thanks to Haley for your assistance in my doctoral journey. I can easily chat to her on Facebook or via email, and she will always point me in the right direction. You're doing a good job. Thank you, Doctor.
Oh, I like to. That's fine. And this is a good tip for everybody, is there's so many people in this community who are always really happy to talk. Like I said before, I got so much help from people who were senior to me that, you know, now I'm like, you know, my door's open. If people have questions, they want help with an application, they have an idea scientifically, like if I can help people, I will. And I think a lot of people are like that. So don't be intimidated to just speak to people, even though you think they might be a bit senior to you. Often they're just so passionate about their work, they're always willing to help. So thanks to Mello.
Thank you very much, Dr. King. So we are now moving to our next speaker, who is Ndomfuthi Nzimande. So Ndomfuthi is currently pursuing her doctoral degree in geoscience in the University of Szeged in Hungary, with special research focus on urban renewal, social housing, and community development. As a former Planeteer, co-lecturer, HPW organizer, and KZN rep, Ndomfuthi is passionate about using innovative ways to explain difficult scientific phenomena, with her current role as an assistant editor in the GILE Journal of Skill Development, assisting in research dissemination. Ndomfuthi, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, guys. So I'll try to, you know, have big shoes to fill after Haley spoke, hey? So I don't know where I'm gonna start. Okay, first of all, I didn't want to get into science. I actually wanted to be an actress, of course. Everybody wants to be an actress when we're growing up. You see things on Generations, you'll be like, yeah, I can do better than Karabo. And then grade 9 came and I had to choose the subject when I was 14 years old. And then, of course, you know, even though my heart wanted to, you know, be Karabu, more something, in Generations, I couldn't really, because there was just no talent. But if you tell me that, I will say no, okay? So according to me, I have talent, but according to everybody else, it's just, anyways. So, so I decided to do science. Physics was a whole section: physics, life sciences, geography, pure maths, and yeah, English and LO and everything else. And I did it. I was barely passing. Other terms I'll fail, other terms I'll pass by the grace of God. I don't know how, you know, when you get that 30% or that 40% on the dot, that was always me and my friends. And it would be like, yes, I beat you by 1%, and my 1% or the 31% compared to their 30%. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about, just that alone in high school, was that we did not really have teachers who, if I say, were passionate about their jobs. So if you're a student or a learner back then, and a teacher teaches you something, they will expect you to get that, whatever they're teaching you, like this, okay? Even if you put your hand up, you don't understand, no, you're stupid, okay? We don't have to take notice of you then. So it's something that I always tell my friends who are doing PGCE and our teachers now, like, you need to be, yes, of course, job opportunities are important, but they must be passionate about your work so that you must not have more zombies in the future. So anyways, passed my matric, got into UKZN. Because I didn't really pass well, I got 28 points, excluding LO. And then when I applied, I got in for social sciences. So it was called Bachelor of Social Sciences in Geography and Environmental Management. No, I'm lying. It was just general. And then I got in because I like talking, as you can see. I eventually got to know people within a week, and they were like, hey, if you pass really well in your first semester, you can ask to do an exchange of, not an exchange, not change your degree or something like that. So I decided to go to fill that form in the administration within a week. I was supposed to wait for a semester. But impatient me, I did a semester. I did it 1 week. So I went there and I was able to change to geography and environmental management. It was still social sciences. So I did it. It was good, passed really well. And then I got into honors. I was really happy about this because I was, because I was failing so much in high school. And I told myself when I get to varsity, they will know me. I was the girl that sat in front. My lecturers, if I was not in class, I'd be like, oh, no. Someone is missing in class. I was literally that girl. And I was happy about that because I got all that attention. And if I didn't know anything, I'll not feel stupid of putting my hand up because the lecturer will be like, no, she's intelligent. If she doesn't understand, I need to start again. So I used that to my advantage. And it worked sometimes. Sometimes it didn't really. But anyways, so I got into honors. So when I got into honors, the degree would change to Bachelor of Science honors. I was really excited here. I was really happy. And then I started doing social impact assessment. So the funniest thing is that it's considered a scientific assessment or scientific work, but more or less it's more humanities. So it's like a in the middle, humanities and science. Then I did my honors in social impact assessments using a Konobia in Durban, where I'm from originally, case study. Then I passed it. Then I went to masters. So I did my master's in something related to what Haley's doing right now. I did it in remote sensing. Specifically, I was looking at Sentinel-2 in mapping some indigenous, forest in KwaZulu-Natal. And it's a border between KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape, so it's called Coxted. And then when I was doing that, so in all of this, when I realized in matric that, okay, I am not going to pass well, I wanted to actually move to Netherlands and be an au pair. So I don't know if you guys know what an au pair is. It's like be a nanny, basically. And I wanted to go there. I'm like, I'm gonna go there. And then I think unfortunately universities accepted me, and then they just blew all my chances of being a nanny. I know it sounds weird, but I had a plan, okay? I was gonna get married, have kids in the Netherlands and everything else. So anyway, so all this time I'm doing things in UKZN, I'm part of Planetia and everything else. I realized like, no, I haven't really achieved my goal actually moving overseas. So backtrack a bit in honors, it was really tough because I didn't have any funding and my sisters were paying for me. And I remember when I finished my third year and then at home was like, yeah, you need to go look for a place to work. And I'm like, no, I want to do my honors. And explaining to your mom that you want to do honors. And she's like, why do you want to do honors? What is honors? First of all, when we just, just studied and everything is fine now, can go and work. I'm like, no. I can't go to work now. I need to first do my honors. Anyways, I went back to UKZN, no funding, no nothing. And then luckily I got a funding under UKZN called Talent Excellence and Equity Acceleration Scholarship, where it meant that basically they're going to pay for my studies. And then afterwards I finish my PhD, then I'll work for the university as a lecturer, a researcher, and whatever not for the number of years that they paid for me. But then in 2018, beginning of 2018, I saw the scholarship. So it's called Stipendium Hungaricum. South Africans would say stipendium, but S here and pronounce it a weird way. Anyway, so I decided to apply. I remember when I applied, my good friend then was like, you're not going to finish it, because I'm always a person, I'm going to apply. And then I start typing. I'm like, oh, they want 1,000 words. No, I don't want that. So, but now something was in me was like, no, do it. And then I finished it. And then, I got it, you know? So I rushed my master's through. I still regret rushing it through. But anyways, I rushed it through. Then I came here. So I moved here 2018 September. So PhD has 4 years. So I've just finished with my 2nd year. So I'm about to start my 3rd year next semester, not next semester, next week, yes, because our semester starts in September. And yeah, hey, I don't know if I should continue talking or my 5 minutes is up.
No,
Thank you so much, Dombi. Thank you so much. I just want to ask, by the way, shout out to your earrings. They're very, very beautiful.
Thank you.
The question I have, is, you, as a person, you get demotivated when you start failing, and you start getting used to that fact that you fail. You're okay when you get 50% and all of that. And it's really difficult for such a person to apply for bursaries or bursaries to study in other countries, not just in any other university, but in other countries. So how would you advise a Black female who is in South Africa currently, who wants to go overseas, but then does not know how to apply for funding, how to apply for school, and how to just adapt in that place, because they speak a different language, they have a different color to ours. So how would you advise a young female who wants to pursue the same career as you?
Well, I'm going to start off firstly what you mentioned, which was important, was that how do they know about these funding opportunities? Now, we must be honest as young people. I'm 25 years old, so I have a right to say this, okay? Nobody else has. Below 25, you don't have a right. We young people are very lazy when it comes to reading up things. I always say that we have social media literally on our thumbs. All information is just here. But I learned different scholarships that I had throughout the years on Facebook, on just Facebook. So I know, usually people, I know a lot of people here I used to be on Facebook with. I'm a meme queen, like I'm a meme queen, like you guys know, like I love memes. But then in you wasting your time and sitting up there in bed instead of, you know, doing schoolwork, I'll be sharing memes, but I'll also be looking for opportunities. And then one thing we should capitalize on is that specifically. Haley mentioned something very important about networking. You don't only network when you go to a conference and you wear white shirts and you wear high heels or put good lipstick. You network with people on LinkedIn, you network with people on Twitter, on Instagram. And also how you carry yourself also would remind people like, oh, I remember I met this guy called Screw 2015. I remember he wanted to do something in hydrology, in a job, whatever. And then I'll literally forward something in email. I'm like, oh, because I remember he wanted to do something like that. So that's the first thing. Like, you just read up. You can never get tired of reading up. You will never get tired of reading a long post on how to hold to a man or something like that. So the same way you'll never get tired of a post that tells you how to draw your eyebrows. I don't know how to draw eyebrows, despite the many posts I've read, but let's say I do read it. So you must read everything else that other people will post. Okay, so for me, that was the first thing. Secondly, adapting to a new environment. Unfortunately, you don't. I know me and Haley had really different experiences. When she came to South Africa, it was all great. When I came to Hungary, opposite. You know, different language. You know, yes, they speak Hungarian because it's a different country. But then don't think, I always tell South Africans that the fact that we speak English so much in South Africa, do never think that other countries speak English the way we speak English. Oh, if I could tell you guys different stories where you go to shops. people don't understand. When you go to universities and people don't understand you and everything else. So it literally calls on all your inner or lack of inner self, time, whatever not that you can think of, so that you can be able to talk to people, because you get frustrated a lot. You'll be like, why did you accept my application when you know you don't speak English? Can't you assist me better? Can't you show me someone better? And there's nobody there to help you. So as Haley again said, networking and sticking together with other women most of the time. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it will not work. But because we're doing a whole Women's Day thing, we're going to say it's work. So to promote the helpfulness of women. I don't know if I answered your question.
Thank you so much. There are a couple of questions on the chat. Sirisha and I will just rotate in reading them. The first one is from Dr. Haley. She says, what is it like being a Black woman in science in Europe? How different is it from being in South Africa?
Can I answer right now quickly? It's so weird. It is so weird. It's good in a way, because when you walk, you know everybody's looking at you. But also there's an eerie feeling that's like, oh, if everybody's looking at me, I could trip anytime, you know? So also before in South Africa, you know, when you need help, it's much easier besides just you're Black. But also in my department, even though we had it was a male dominated department, there were a lot of postgrad students who are all Black, you know, and I had really great mentors. I know you guys know Doni and all of them, and Dombi. So they were really my mentors since my first year when I was 18. So when I came here, so leaving South Africa, living comforts, guys. Think of it like leaving Amakwinya, leaving your fries, chips, leaving Ikota, and then you're coming here and you have to eat things you cannot even pronounce. Still happens to me right now. I have to show them a picture exactly what I want because it tasted good the first time. So it's almost like that. When now also on top of you leaving comfort food, leaving your family, the hardest thing is like leaving your comfort, your safe space. So I had a group of friends I knew, or even back home when I was like feeling in my weirdest weekends, I would just go home and I'll never say anything. I'll just continue life because I know life is chowing me, but I'll just, because you're with your family, feels good. Here, there is no such thing. Okay, it's really hard. It's besides being a Black person, in terms of you find white friends trying to be white people trying to be my friends, but then when you realize the intentions, they just want to practice English on you, you know. And then so now it's no longer a point of getting genuine friends. Now you have to realize, what is your intention of you being my friend? A man will ask you out. Are you asking me out because I'm Black and you want me as Dombi, or you want to be seen walking around with a Black person? So I'll never just stop talking about this, Haley. Sorry. So it's just a huge difference between the two, and I can't even handle it. But yeah.
Okay, so Stombi, it's actually a comment from Bonwell. He says that your background is so inspiring. Thanks so much for sharing. And thanks for supporting me. Every time I go stuck, you're always there to give and listen and assist. Keep up this excellent spirit.
Thank you, buddy.
And we have a question from Dina. She's asking, would you please tell us more about your current scholarship and what are you currently working on your PhD, and also plans after your PhD?
Okay, cool. So I'll start the easiest way. My scholarship is called Stipendium Hungaricum. So what I love about it, it's a partnership between South Africa and Hungary. So there are a lot of scholarships if you check on different websites, whatever not. But what I like about these scholarships and some other ones with other countries that South Africa has a partnership with is that I'm not scared that I'll end up being hijacked or kidnapped in an airport, because I know it's something from the Department of Higher Education and Training. So this one specifically, so I don't even have to go to much details. If you go to Department of Higher Education and Training and go to the international scholarships, you'll find the scholarship and all the answers will be there. But if you have other questions, then you can send me directly those questions. But for now, the scholarship closed. It usually opens maybe October, November, and it takes a whole process. And then because they're only coming in now, the new South Africans are coming in a week or two, hopefully, if they're allowed in the borders. And the second one was, what am I working on? My current project. Another thing, before you do your postgraduate, whichever country you go to, make sure you know your supervisor. Make sure you understand their work. You understand, you read their papers if they published. You talk to the previous students, and all and all and all and all and all. Because I think Precious or Haley mentioned, but also having a good team, in terms of your research team or a good supervisor. I had a really, 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 really bad experience in the beginning with my supervisor, because I had to change my topic 4 times, because whatever proposal I sent, they accepted it, but then I felt like they accepted it just because they want to have a student in their department. Because when I got there, they're looking at urban planning and not on social impact assessment. So that was a whole issue. So that was a side tip. So other than that, my PhD is looking at socio-economic impacts of social housing in Hungary. I was doing a comparative with South Africa, but then because most of us know how South African, most of the time, municipality or governmental workers would hardly respond to your emails in time. So after coming to South Africa and spending about 2 months trying to get interviews, dates, and everything else and being ignored, I decided to just focus on Hungary for now. So that's what my research is looking at: social housing, and how are these, because these housing are always said to be like, oh no, people love these houses the government give them, but then how true is that? How much are communities consulted when it comes to these housing, instead of just being given a house or being rented out a house. So yeah, I think I answered Dina's question, or there's something else left.
On the chat section, we have Koliwe, Happy, and Lungi. They're just saying thank you for sharing your story, and they are proud of you. The next speaker, let me just check quickly on the program.
Sihle, are you there?
Okay, so our next speaker is Siphelele Khumalo, who used to be a chairperson of Planeteer's student committee. She is currently working at Fitza Laboratories. She is also a medical sales rep. She visits healthcare professionals, GPs, nurses, pharmacists, specialists, physicians, and other specialties like pulmonologists, etc., to discuss treatment options for certain types of patients and health conditions. She has done cardiovascular and diabetic portfolios and is currently doing respiratory vaccination and anti-infectionists. Over to you, Siphelele.
Thank you to the chairperson, and hi everyone. And a big thank you for the invitation. It's a great honor to be part of the panel. It's a big mama I made it moment for me. So yeah, a brief, if I can call it what, elaboration on my introduction, which was rather different from everyone else, I think. So I am a science graduate, but okay, I'm a scientist by qualification, but in sales, medical sales by practice. I'm a medical sales representative, but I will get to that at the end of my brief introduction. So yeah, I'll take you guys through the journey from maybe high school a bit and university, my journey at Access and postgraduate studies, and where I am right now. So I'm going to start off when Ntombi took off in high school, where you have to make your subject choices. For me, it wasn't a straight choice of what do I want to be when I was old. I never had that clear vision or the name to say I want to be a doctor of philosophy in environmental sciences. It was always had an idea of the environment in which I wanted to work, which was I want, as long as I'm working with people and positively influencing people around me, I think I'm happy with that. So I never had a title that I wanted to follow. It was more of a work environment and the impact that I wanted to make. But in high school, the choice of going the physics route was because physics was the popular choice. You know, it was the class where all the smart people went. So I wanted to be smart as well. I took physics, and luckily enough, I worked hard enough and I passed well enough to qualify for my first choice in university, which was BSc Environmental Sciences. And yeah, I qualified and I did my environmental sciences, and I was really, really happy with the choice of degree that I made when I went with environmental sciences. And through my undergraduates is when you get, undergraduates in environmental sciences, specifically in UKZN, is quite broad because I did environmental sciences and life sciences. So it was very broad, and you get exposed to a lot of different fields, and you get to really specialize when you get to your final year and then your honors, you can choose exactly what it is you want to do. So that exposure made me happy because I did the biology, then I did earth sciences. And I got exposed to access. I think I saw the ad in my first semester of my honors year. It was, for me, it was a great opportunity, as like everyone else has alluded to it, that you need to network. So when I got to see the opportunity with Access, and I went for it and I applied, I was very excited to get it. And when I got to Cape Town, that's where my first HPW event was. It was as a student, I was in Cape Town. And yeah, I took an airplane for the first time. I didn't have to pay for it. It was very exciting. I was exposed to scientists, your doctors, your female doctors, your Black graduates, people you can look up to and feel inspired, and it inspired me a lot. So having been exposed to Access, I think exposed me to a lot of things and gave me so much inspiration, which I've also had, like, since high school, I think I've had to deal with balancing my reality and my inspirations. So, just briefly, I think growing up, the environment wasn't so conducive and easy for me to want to persuade being a scholar in life. And I have a very strong desire and passion for lifelong learning. But my reality was not such that it supported this vision that I had. And I went to Access and I saw all these young graduates, all these people doing their masters, some of them are doing their PhDs, some are young doctors, and you're like, oh my God, I so want to do this. And yet again, I was conflicted with my reality. Like, girl, can you really afford to go this route? But I think I was already in honors at the time. And after finishing my undergraduate studies, I had to think long and hard because realistically, I had to quickly go in to find work, and there had to be a support system back at home. I was the first one to qualify to go to university. With all the hard work and everything that you have to put in at undergraduate, I did everything and I was able to graduate, first one to graduate. And now it's like, okay, well done. We're happy you got your matric clean pass. We're happy you got into university. We're happy you're now graduate. So now there's expectations from back home. You need to go and work. Life has to go on. And now, like Ntombi has alluded to, the point of when you have to convince your parents, convince your family that actually work is probably not now, so maybe later on. So then I had to also sit my mom down and explain to her, this is actually what I want. But in that explaining, in the back of my head, I was also thinking, can I really afford to go further my studies and not find work? And I think most people will understand the difficulty of getting to the workspace in South Africa. And I had passed well in my final year and I qualified for my honors degree. Fortunately, got the NRF scholarship as well. So then I think I had more points to support me in making my arguments that I have to go back to university because I can't sit, I don't have a job at that time. And I was accepted into my honors program. I have funding for that honors program. So it was a thing of really, why not? And then I was able to go and do that. And then I got to Access and got all this inspiration. I did my honors. And then I completed my honors, and then I registered for master's degree. in registering for a master's degree, it was even more pressure for me because of the whole conflict, my inspirations versus my reality. So it's a choice that I had to live with since my undergraduate course. It's something that not just myself, but my family and many other people are looking at this journey with all these expectations of once you're finished, the way to from here, can you get a job and lift somebody else up? You know, it was a whole lot of expectations and a whole lot of people who had to be built into my decision making. So I finished my honors. I knew that I wanted to go and do my master's, but before I get onto that, I have just a bit of an experience that I had made and that I had gone through that I want to share with you guys, so that in case you are undergraduates hoping to go to honors or hoping to go to your MSc or whatever, you have to think about it. I made what I think was a very big mistake when I went and did my honors. I wanted to choose both a topic and a supervisor, and I did not consider the relationship that the two had to have. So sometimes you really, like Ntombi has also pointed to that when you do your postgraduate, you have to look into your supervisor, look into their interests. What are they really about? What is their research mostly on? And will it work with what I want to do? So then are the two aligned, so that it's easy for you and your supervisor to communicate about the progress of your work, or even choosing the topic, which is the most basic thing but very important. It will also affect how you perform and how you do with your entire degree. So please do bear that in mind. Choosing that topic and choosing that supervisor and the field that you're going in, do your thorough research. And Haley did mention the importance of networking. So go to the person who's been there. Find out from that person, what do I do? Where do I start? If you don't know where to start, don't be shy to ask. Sometimes there's that fear of not knowing, but you are better off exposing yourself, asking those questions, then you are likely to get the right advice from the people who've been there. From their experience, you will get that advice and you're likely to make a better choice and even learn from their mistakes, rather than you also making the same mistake that has been committed by another person before you. So excuse. So the next thing that I wanted to point out is that I did register for my master's degree, and I did not manage to complete and graduate for my master's. On my first year, on my first year of master's, I was already a college right access, and I was at the time appointed as the access chairperson, which was a position that I had to leave, I think, in my 4th month as a chairperson. I had to write a resignation letter and apologize because it was science. I always say science is my first love, and I was happy in that position. I felt like I could make the influence and that I always had a dream of making in other people's life, and in the next girl child who's looking up to me. So I had to leave that position because in my 2nd year of master's, I then got a job offer in the medical sales fraternity. And my first love and passion was to pursue this master's. But my primary priority that I had to also take care of was, I suppose, just basically living, because there was that many other people who my decision making will also influence. So then I had to sort of leave it hanging for a while and then go and get started with work. And I think with the pressure of being new at work, the training and everything, new field, new everything, I had to then resign from my position. And then I tried to just keep in touch and be useful and handy where I could help with other access related matters. So I was able to do that. And I'm now in medical sales. So you guys had my introduction. It's medical sales. It's no longer the pure sciences, and it's not even earth science anymore. It's more like your medical side of the sciences. So I think the message with that is that knowledge never loses its value. So as long as you go out there, you acquire that knowledge, you remain empowered, and you impart that knowledge to the next person. Apologies. You share that knowledge to make positive influences. So what I want to say to everyone else who's listening Just go for it and don't compromise, just focus. Sometimes it's going to look not so easy, it's going to be difficult, but difficult doesn't mean impossible. So if you want it, you go and you get it. And also the one very important thing in life, sometimes there won't be an easy support system, an easy structure in front of you to say, this is the route and I have the support for you, you can always do it. But I think we should learn also to be self-reliant. When you are self-reliant, you put in more and more energy to get to achieve your goals. And when you are, while you are there at that and you get a support system, it's even easier then for you to pursue whatever it is you're pursuing. So if you are self-reliant and you go and get it, you are going to get it because you're the one who wants it and you're the one who knows what it is that you want. So just get up and go get it. So it is possible. Just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. So you can definitely go and get it. So if you want it, it's up to you. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Spelele. You know that many students are always confused on whether to continue with their studies or stop at undergraduate because most of their family members don't understand what's the point of, because families always think that if you do your 3-year degree, then that's it. So with you, you mentioned that your family, you had to sit your mother down and explain to her what you wanted. So how did you overcome that? And also, how did you continue with your studies, knowing that your mother wanted you to actually work instead of continuing with your studies?
Okay, so thank you for that question. And it's very relevant and it's something that I have come across a few times. I think the one very important task is to get to a point of understanding. It's difficult sometimes because your parents are your elders and you want to listen and they're the ones who most likely are going to get the last word in. So I think the important thing is just communication. Communication, and for you to try also. And there's also different ways of getting this done. So sometimes you can also, if you have to go to work, you can work and study. But for me, it was easier because I got the sponsorship. There was not job aligned. So I explained that while I also understood the situation, this is where my inspiration is. This is where currently the opportunity is presenting itself. And I'm not going to be just sitting at home and relaxing. So if I were to sit and look for a job, why don't I go and pursue my honors and still be looking for a job? And I did do that and I looked for a job and I got the job. So if I still want to continue and complete my honors or my master's or whatever it is, whatever point you're in, you're able to do that. You make the time. Like I'm saying, if you want to get it, you go and get it. So you can get the job, complete your studies on the side if you really have to. But first step is communication. Sit your parents down, sit whoever your support system down is, sit whoever relies on you and is part of your decision making, talk to them, explain to them. We can't be ignorant about our realities, but we also need to be mindful of our future. So you need to create your next reality. If the one you're currently in is not the one that you want, it's not the one that you are happy with, work now so that the next reality you find yourself in is the one that you are happy with.
Okay, thank you for that. We also have a comment from Dr. King. She says that very inspirational, Spelele. I like how you raise the challenges of different priorities and expectations that people have. I think sometimes people forget how these sometimes subtle influences can affect us. And we also have a question from Happy Caesar. He says that, thank you so much, Spare. What a lovely experience. On the part of self-reliance, how do you remain strong and mentally balanced while pursuing your studies, a job, and working hard independently?
Thank you, Happy. And it's a really, I don't want to say tough because it's like a roller coaster ride. Sometimes you have your highs, sometimes you have your downs. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult, but live through the moments. One thing that I think, as I think generally human beings, that we the most of us fail to do is to take our time and dwell in our happiness. Because once something bad happens, it's very easy for those things to take on a snowball effect. Then the next bad thing you attach and you attach and you attach, and then the ball just grows and everything is just not working. So every time there's something positive, be happy, celebrate each and every little, no matter how little milestone, it is a change towards, it's a positive change. So celebrate it. When there's also something negative, you sit down. If you have to cry, cry. Don't just support. If you must cry, cry. But also, if you must be happy, do be happy. We are very easy to entertain the negative feelings and not pay enough attention to the positive ones. So do dwell on those so that when you have your down moments, you can look back and say, but I've done this. I've passed matric. Not everyone just gets a clean pass in matric. Maybe your pass in matric was not so great. You had to start at a what do we call that? The entry level when a degree is 4 years, then you get to do it 5, or if it's 3, you do it 4. But there's those kind of programs. If you're able to qualify for that, there's someone who didn't. So why not celebrate that achievement? It was an achievement for you. You were able to graduate. There's people who went into university and didn't graduate. Why not celebrate that? There's people who wanted to go to university but couldn't get into university. So you are here now. You have already conquered so much. Take those moments in and dwell on them more than you do on your sad moments, which we tend to just very easily entertain. So when there's a positive, be happy. When you must cry, cry and move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Spe. There are a few questions on the chats, but because of time, we need to move to the next speaker. So can you please maybe just answer them in the chats while we continue with the next speakers? So last but not least, it's Sirisha Ramjiwan. So Sirisha is enrolled as a Master of Science, Environmental Science student at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. She graduated with a Bachelor of Science honors degree in environmental science in 2019 and a Bachelor of Science degree in geography in 2018. Since 2016, she has been part of Access program, contributing to the promotion of science education via hosting workshops and lecturing in South African universities for both local and international scholars and students. She hopes to continue providing awareness towards the current climate crisis. Sirisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sishle. Firstly, thank you to Access for hosting this. It's such a wonderful platform to be on, and I'm so inspired by the ladies that have spoken. I know each and every story has touched me and all our viewers. Simple background about myself. I was in school and I chose the science subjects, but at the back of my mind, I wanted to do law because I was inspired by my sister, who was a student at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. So I had my mind set towards law and going to UKZN. So my dream eventually changed in my matric year when I joined an environmental science club at school. So we had little garden projects and mini SAS projects. So it got me involved into the environment. And I think this is where my passion grew. I applied for the environmental science degree at UKZN, but I also applied for law everywhere else. So I wanted to leave my hometown secretly, but I guess KZN just kept me here. I got my points for environmental science, and this was in 2016. I wasn't funded, so my study there was funded by my parents. And this was the first semester where I actually met Ntombi. And Ntombi was my demonstrator. And this is when I saw an email from Ntombi, and her signature on the email said, what was it? I think honors candidate, if I'm not mistaken. And then I got inspired because when you're in school, you don't really hear about honors degrees or master's degrees or actually pursuing your PhD. So then Ntombi was my supervisor, and she was this vibrant, phenomenal lady that had passion no matter how tired she was at a practical. And then I saw her and her colleagues, and I'm like, just hold on. Ntombi she's got this own office of hers, and it's so inspiring to actually look up to someone who I see every week. So I completed my undergraduate degree in 2018, but during my second year, I was introduced to the Access Habitable Planet workshop, where Dr. Carl actually introduced it to us in a lecture. And this is when I got inspired, but at the same time, I was very confused because Dr. Carl says it's free, there's fun, and there's food. And for someone that actually wasn't funded for my studies, I'm like, is this really legit? What is going on? So then I eventually looked up at the workshop online, and I saw this opportunity, and I'm like, wait, it's running for quite a few years and it's so legit. So let me just get involved. So I attended this workshop and I got inspired by postgraduate students. I was really terrified, just like how I'm the youngest at this platform right now. I was the youngest at that first workshop. And that's where I actually had Intombi, because Intombi was a co-lecturer there. So I think she helped me get through the phase of not underestimating myself, even when there's people in their postgraduates there, because I was just a second year student. So I was intimidated throughout my studies, I would say, but I decided not to underestimate myself. So then it came to the end of my degree, and everyone, including myself, so everyone as in my friends, were applying for the postgraduate degree. And I knew that Access put this idea in my mind of always furthering your studies because you are never too qualified. So eventually my friends started getting the acceptances for their honors degrees, and I wasn't getting my acceptance yet. So then I started questioning myself, am I hardworking enough? Do I need funding to get through the next phase? Am I really passionate about this? Because why isn't my acceptance coming through? And it was actually the workshop where I was training to host a mini habitable planet workshop. And I think it was the second to last day where I actually got my acceptance for honors. So then it actually changed my mindset. I convinced myself that, you know something, this is what I wanted to do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have applied for honors. And eventually I saw myself as an Intombi. So I got into honors, and I started doing what I loved. In my third year, I was doing a felt condition assessment, so always working in the field for biology and geography and basically bonding with Earth itself. So it allowed me to engage in a remote sensing and GIS based project in my honors year. So I worked with satellites as well. So hi, Haley. Um, and I think the passion grew from there. But once again, I doubted myself and I didn't think I was good enough for masters. So once again, I just sent in my application, just thinking like, oh, if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, then it's just one of those things. I just got to find a job. I got to move on. Because as a scholar, you think you're going to come out of matric, you're going to get that degree, just get a job. There's no such thing as honors or masters. And then you're just going to get married, have kids, and okay, you're cooking and cleaning for the rest of your life. But it's really not that. So I got my master's degree, my master's acceptance. And then this whole image just changed. It's like, you know something, there's more to a lady's life than actual vision she had from her schooling days or her undergraduate studies. And your vision is never what you actually see. It's always changing over the years because your opportunities are always changing, and so are the challenges. And I think we just have to embrace those different challenges with those opportunities. And as young developing women in South Africa, I think we just need to say yes to these opportunities and say no to things that we actually don't want. It's not bad to be assertive and, just put it out there and say, you know something, this is not what I want as a young lady. I want to do science. Let me do science. And I think as the HPW platform, it put me on a scale where I'm able to speak and develop my cognitive abilities. I was very reserved. And this is what I actually thank Access for, because the person I'm speaking as today was not the person I was in 2016 when I started my degree, or the person when I matriculated. So you got to embrace these opportunities, like how I embraced the Access workshop, and grow from it. So I was able to network with people around the world and develop relationships with people prior to COVID, wherever they are in the world. So whether it was Zoom meetings or Facebook, it was always interactions with people anywhere. And this is what is important in this world, because networking gets you to places, whether it's physically or not. So I think Access has taught me to always embrace these new levels of studying, because the people that I engaged with at workshops were always honors or master's students and PhD students. And if you feel the need to stop at your undergraduate degree, I think maybe look outside the box and see more opportunities, because don't be confined by the vision you had 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because opportunities are always ongoing and changing every time. So everyone has a vision for their future, but we can never be sure of the things that may actually happen according to our plan. So the advice I would give to students will be to always ask questions, learn, engage, network with people, and interact with people within and outside of your field, because that is when you learn from each other. And interacting with different disciplines makes your mind grow. And no one discipline is greater than the other, right? So you got to work in symbiosis, just like everyone in your family or everyone in your social group. Everyone has different personalities, but together you actually make the change. And if that change starts from you, you inspire others. And this is where science starts. Science education. This is actually the aim and objective of HPW. If you yourself has this aim of making a difference, whether it's just in your home or convincing your smallest siblings or cousins that you know something, in order for South Africans to come out of poverty, is to actually understand that science education is a tool to do this, then automatically you are making that difference. So just embrace who you are, embrace these opportunities, and just look forward to the next step as a scientist. And I think one of the most challenging things for me as a student was I was never funded. And I know I'm not the only student facing this, especially as a woman in science. So it restricts you. So don't let these restrictions get into your way or narrow your mindset. I think embrace everything and be positive. Don't let the negatives overtake your optimistic view of life, and interact with people. And yeah, I guess that's about it. Like, just be positive, be a positive person, and give your positivity out there. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sirisha. You really are a positive human being. You did mention that you are part of the HPW, and I remember you were also nominated for the Dumisani Ndaba Award. What advice would you give to someone who has never been or who has never experienced what you've experienced with Access or HPW? What advice would you give them? Because I understand from what you said, you meet a lot of different people there.
Yes. I think we're living now in a world where technology is one of the most advanced platforms for us to interact everywhere. So even if you're not involved in the Habitable Planet workshop, nothing stops you from creating a Twitter account or an Instagram account or even a Facebook account and keeping up with what's happening in the world, whether it's just access, whether it's sustainability practices, whether it's COVID-19 updates. I think interacting on any platform that you feel comfortable with definitely gives you the self-growth you need. I hope that answers your question, Oxolo.
Thank you very much. We now take the mic to Skumbuzo and Dr. Neville.
Oh, sorry. Before we go there is a question, one question on the chat. It says, hi, Sirisha, how do you get past being an introvert and self-doubt and build networks with people? It's from, I don't know, iPhone. Yes, that's the question for Sirisha.
Okay, thank you for that question. Just like I've said, I was very confined. I was within a bubble, more like an introvert because of self-doubt. So once you're able to understand yourself and build yourself as an individual, you're able to grow outside that bubble and therefore interact with other people. So it doesn't matter whether you are insecure or you don't like interacting with people. It's the little steps that you actually do on social media today that take you to other places. Like, for example, I didn't know I could do this, but I eventually did. And this is my little story that I've done this year. It's because scholars and students this year particularly have so much going on in their mind about keeping up with academics, considering our COVID-19 situation. So I wanted to go the extra mile just to help these students. And I developed a YouTube page called Jog My Memory. And I didn't know whether this will kick off or not because it was basically free education. And it's education at your fingertips where you're able to watch these videos. And I doubted myself at first again. And then I realized, you know, something, I'm actually getting views because people are willing to learn. It's just that people that us who have the opportunities to create these extended opportunities for other people that are confining ourselves. So if we can do it, why not do it? Go out there and create these opportunities for people because it wasn't given to us. Nothing was handed to us and said, here, Sirisha, here's a YouTube channel, go and learn this. No, it wasn't there. So if I am able to do it and come out of my bubble and give these opportunities to other people, they'll understand that they can grow out of their bubble and not be introverts. They'll be able to learn more and become optimistic about their actual own character. I hope that answers that question.
Yes,
I just saw Peter's hand was up. I think he has a question.
Yes, thank you very much, Sihle. And well, thank you to all the speakers, Precious, Haley, Ntombifuthi, Siphelele, and Sirisha. My question is actually to all of you and to, well, actually all the other women in the meeting right now. You had great advice for other women, what to do, to look for networks, to look for other women, even in a male-dominated space. I'm wondering, what advice can you give us men to do, or also just importantly not to do, to make you feel comfortable, or to help level the playing field? I mean, what are the things that we should absolutely not be doing? What were the things that men did in your field that annoyed you the most, that made you feel uncomfortable, that made you not as inspired or motivated? How can all the men that are here, as we are together with me, School, McDonald, and everyone else that I see here, including Neville and Carl, what can we do, right, to support and to level the playing field and not to perpetuate the kind of sexism that is still so rampant everywhere and in science? So I guess maybe the speakers and anyone, I would love to hear a few things. Yeah.
I guess I
Haley.
can say something.
Haley has a hand up.
Yeah. So, okay, one thing I don't like that happens to me a lot is people really patronize me and they treat me like I'm like younger or like a bit of a child. That happens to me a lot, and it happens to me a lot with senior men. And I don't know if they're even aware of it. I think it might just be that they feel this way because they see me as what I, am, younger and female and whatever that means to them. So, I would encourage guys to kind of just reflect a little bit on whether you're doing that. Remember what somebody's actual expertise is, and even if they are younger than you, they may have more experience in the particular topic. That happens quite a lot, and I find it really annoying. But one thing I've seen a lot of guys doing much more now, which is really great and makes the whole environment that you're in feel much more welcoming and safe, is just generally listening and just asking and appreciating like that a woman's point of view on something is actually like a legitimate viewpoint. I've had conversations with people about things like being harassed in the street. Like guys this doesn't really happen to them so much, people don't wolf whistle and things like that. And they're like, I never realized that this is something that happens to you so much. And just accepting that is a reality that you can't experience. I really like it and really appreciate it when guys do that. So being open-minded and listening to our experiences is really appreciated.
Can I add something?
Yes, you can go, Spay.
Yes, I think exactly what Haley has mentioned, and also just if you are a lab technician and you are a male, and there's also another lab technician who is female, you are both just laboratory technicians. There's no need to say, oh, but she's a girl lab technician. So if you see the next person as just your colleague and full stop, not as a female colleague, then you won't attach stereotypes and think that may cause harm, and you're likely to empower the next person, even if it's a lady or a guy. If you see me as just a direct colleague, be it below you in terms of leadership or whatever or above, if I'm just a colleague and you know what my position is, I am in that position because I have the expertise and are qualified to be in that position. So you respect that and treat me as just that person who's qualified to be in that position before you see me as a female colleague. Then once you start attaching gender to it, you are definitely going to make mistakes. So just see me as your colleague and treat me as such.
Thank you, Spelele. I'm not sure that there's someone want to add.
If I could add, school, I think
Yes,
also just respect, and as Haley said, listen, but also respect, because there's things that come up when you're having a conversation with your colleagues, and it's always like if you are doing science or when you having a discussion and it's like, oh, you want to come off as the strong and aggressive woman, so they misinterpret your boldness as being aggressive, and it's always like you shouldn't be voicing your opinions freely as a woman while you're trying to be aggressive, or in a way just listen and respect your, as Pelel said, as a colleague, that whatever I say, it's not to belittle you, but it's just we are discussing as colleagues, and you shouldn't then result to you are a woman, you shouldn't be raising such points, or it's being aggressive in a way. So I think respect as well is one other thing.
Oh, thank you, Spelele. Precious. Dombi. Oh man, Dombi, we can't hear you.
She's on mute. Don't be unmuted.
We can't hear you again, even even when you're unmuted. You can just type on the chat, maybe.
Yes, please type.
Hello? Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much for the day. I think we are about to end our meeting. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Ndombi. Thank you, Precious. Thank you, Spelele. Thank you, Dr. Kings. Thank you, Sirisha. Thank you so much, guys. We thank you for coming up here and for taking this chance. I think it was last minute asking you with my team to come and be with us and share with us. So thank you very much for your availability. So I will allow Dr. Neville to close for us. Dr. Neville, over to you.
Thank you. I feel like a little bit in this meeting, having to close the meeting as a male, middle-aged to elderly, I guess, white male. But I am serving as director, and I don't want to say anything because I think that the speakers have spoken well and clearly and articulately, and I really genuinely have learned a lot from this evening. I feel unsatisfied because I think there's a whole lot more to learn and a whole lot more to explore here, which I really think is vital. I will just say this, that last night, on Friday night, we finished a proposal for a brand new program, which we hope will be funded. It's an African-wide program. And at the end, the last question of the proposal was, what are you going to do to offset, how are you going to manage the problems of racism, of sexism, of nepotism, of all these things in your program? This is what the scientific proposal was asking us, and that the sensitivity to these issues is vital in order for there to be success. It's vital. There's a whole lot I want to respond to, which we don't have time for today. And I'm just going to say one more thing, and that is that don't assume that people who are confident, who are well established of them, that those people are also self-confident and also don't have self-doubt. We all do. It's not exclusive to any one demographic. It's a human condition. And I recognize that in certain groups of people, in particular women, and I think in particular Black women, that's an especially big problem. But it's not exclusive. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that all of us in the world suffer. And it's really important that we are sensitive to it so that we can support each other across all denominations and across all barriers and all borders. But again, I'll leave it there and say, thank you very much for this evening. It was very educative, and I hope we have a chance to pursue this. Thanks. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Neville. That's the end of the day. Thank you to Peter for assisting with everything. Thank you, Dr. Carl. Thank you, Nokolo. Thank you, Sihle, for facilitating for us. Thank you, everyone, for coming up here. We thank you. I think this is the end of the day now. I hope and believe that we will continue to do something like this and have our chats, you know. So thank you so much. Cheerio. Good night.